As per usual, the guys have been terrific. After a defeat, you should always, and we always expect to have some constructive discussion about what went on and why. There's a lot of reflection, of course. No one likes being on the receiving end of a defeat or a result. And that, I think, mental attitude, that focus has carried on over into to work this week, the practical work. And as we've seen on numerous occasions, this group have always been very good at showing the right sort of mindset and attitude after we've had a tough weekend. So my hope is, against a very good LAFC side, we see some sort of reaction.
Thank you, Coach. Bob, do you have any questions, or do we go to this one?
Yeah. Is it just frustration right now about not getting able to get the offense going? Yeah,
I think it's always frustrating when you get beat. You dovetail in with that some difficulties at the moment in finding the back of the net and being a little bit clearer cut, I think, with some of the chances we're creating. And I don't think it's through any lack of effort at all. There's been plenty of energy and positivity within the group. But over a period of time now, we're starting to see that there just needs to be a more concise feel and a confidence about some of the guys in front of goal. But I've said on more than one occasion, I have every faith in the players that we've got in the building, and I've no doubt they'll come good.
And when it does come, you think it'll come like in bucket and spurts?
I'm certainly hoping so. Yeah, it would be nice to see one of those breakout games where you hit the back of the net 3 or 4 times or more. And I think, having seen it on multiple occasions throughout my career, that can sometimes be that jolt that the group needs, and that shot in the arm, if you like, and then you're off and running. But there's no cause for concern at this point. There's a lot of good things going on in the group. We just need to try and get that balance a little bit more evenly spread out within our play, and a couple of goals will do us the world of good.
Tim, go ahead with your questions, please.
Gary, you're going from playing an NYCFC team that really likes to dominate the ball to an LAFC team that I think for the first time in years is not trying to do that this season. How does your approach kind of have to change when you look at not only the different type of opponent, but obviously a very different dimension to the venue when you come back home and play on a normal size field?
Yeah, I mean, look, first and foremost, this LAFC side, a fantastic group. They look to me like the double that they won last year has given them an even bigger boost, as if they needed it anyway. But winning silverware and in the manner and fashion that they have, and of course a terrific Champions League run at the moment as well, with that to look forward to for the group. They're in a great place. I mean, they've got players that have been effective from many different areas of the field, lots of experience, a huge challenge. But we're taking one game at a time, and it's the old adage, but we've got 3 games at home here in the league, and of course 4 with Open Cup. And I think for the group, there are some things that we want to try and set our stall out and achieve, whether it's LAFC or whether it's Chicago in 2 or 3 weeks' time. The challenge for us is to get more out of these home games, is to try and be as positive as possible, but whilst understanding that, of course, this LAFC group can be very, very effective, and like you've said, in fast actions and counter-attacks, they're as good as anyone. In fact, ranked, highest in MLS at the moment when they regain and are able to create quickly.
And then going back to your team specifically, when are Walker and Shaq supposed to be back? And then what is the difficulty for them flying across the country and in Walker's instance, playing 90 minutes last night?
Well, it's always a bit of a concern when they go away midweek. I think LA have had a couple of bodies as well. I think Acosta played 90 minutes last night. The guys will be in this afternoon. Their flight sees them land at 1 o'clock, so not too long. They'll come in, be reassessed, do some regeneration work, and then most importantly, we'll see how they feel in the morning after a good night's sleep. I would think in Shaq's case, there's not too much to consider. I'm sure he'll be fine as long as his journey and nothing untoward's happened during his time in camp. Walker's slightly different, of course, because of his minutes, but he's for the most part, a very, very good professional. And normally we see throughout these midweek games that he recovers pretty well. But I'll get a better look at that in the morning and a better feel for how he is.
And the last one from me, kind of piggybacking off of the question that Bob asked you there is, what are you kind of thinking in terms of how to get more production out of the attack? Are you considering multiple options at striker? Are you looking back at, Jacob and Fafa returning to being on the pitch at the same time? What are some of the options that you're considering in terms of having a little bit more attacking punch?
Well, again, I'm not gonna, divulge or show my hand towards the weekend, but suffice to say that we want to be positive. It's been a feature of our group this year at home. We've tried to be as creative, as bright and as dynamic as we can be. I've also got to consider the fact that this is a very, very talented group and have made light work of a number of teams already this year, and I certainly don't want to give them a head start in a game that will be challenging enough anyway. So I think everyone just needs to keep in mind that I'll do my very utmost with the group to be as positive as we can be. Balance to the group is always key. I'm sure this weekend though, whoever steps out on that field, changes, no changes, wide players, no wide players, whoever it is, they will start with a very positive attitude and they'll try and take this game to LA. We certainly don't want them getting comfortable or feeling confident about the game, but there has to be a certain amount of sensibility about our game as well.
Thank you, team. Claudio, go ahead.
Gary, you've alluded to a lot of probably what I'm going to ask, but especially in your last answer, in terms of that whoever comes into play, whoever comes into the field, will probably give the best effort. However, looking at the team like Los Angeles, which has scored 9 goals in the last 3 games, that's a lot. They got a difference of 10 goals for the whole season. How difficult it is for a coach, this is directed to you, to actually say, well, look, I'm actually going against the one of the best teams in the league for sure, the champions, scoring 9 goals in the last 3 games, and now I also have to think about Walker and Shaq, who are my starters, not being here this week. How big of a challenge that becomes for you in terms of the lineup that you might have to put into play this coming weekend? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a challenge, Claudio. There's no doubt about it, and there's a number of other teams that have had to deal with that as well. But if we're just considering what goes on here, the good thing is both of those guys are very, very experienced. Both of those guys have been playing regularly, and as long as in this case Walker comes back in a reasonable shape, then I don't think there's an awful lot that's going to go on that they won't have seen before, and it's just like a glove that you put on. I'm sure they'll feel comfortable in the surrounds and the group that they're in. So I don't have any worries about that. I just think it's always nice, especially after a difficult result, to have the guys, especially influential guys, to have them around, to get them in the right place, to see the energy and the turnover of emotions throughout the week, because there are changes in emotions. When the guys come in at the start of the week, they're disappointed, they're frustrated. There's some dejection in some cases. And a big part of the job is to get those players back into the right mindset, to enthuse them again for their work at the weekend. And in the end, when we get to this point in the week, for them to be, really, again, at that point where there's energy and there's passion and there's going to be some desire to really get after this LA group, which you've pointed out have been, very, very successful in these early stages of the season. So I don't have any worries about those players. I don't have any worries about this group. We've seen it time and time again when we've had a difficult weekend, that they bounce back well. There's a terrific attitude and determination about this squad of players. I think the key for this weekend, and that you've alluded to, is getting the right balance between let's be aggressive, let's be positive, but let's also be respectful of what we're running into and what they're capable of. And that balance can sometimes go a little bit amiss.
Now, Gary, flipping the coin a little bit, a victory this weekend, which is, not out of this world either. Nashville has played very good games here and beat any team pretty much. But a victory against a team like this, how much would that be a boost for because of the same reasons I already gave you for the team going forward?
Well, again, you're absolutely right. Well, I think we're at that point in the season where, for us, it was a good start in those opening exchanges, and the results now look pretty average on the board. We're in a decent position. Like I said to one of the other questions, I don't think anyone's getting overly excited in those early 3 or 4 games, and nobody's getting overly down about what has gone on in the last couple of games. But what we know is, with 3 home games coming up, we want to take advantage of those. And to your point, a result against LAFC would of course be a massive boost and a big shot in the arm, just purely because of the calibre of the team that you're playing against. But we're not taking anything for granted. We understand the challenge in front of us. They're certainly not going to be coming here and rolling over. So we have a huge task. But one, I think, if you're a player, if you're walking out onto this field at the weekend, these are the games you look forward to. They have to be. The best team in the league, by some margin, I do believe, with the squad that they have and the players that they have. There's probably only 1 or 2 that could, maybe say that they're close to the calibre of this LAFC side. But you're looking at one of the top teams, and we want to be tested against them. The players want to be tested, and this is a fabulous opportunity at this time of year.
Now, one last one. I'm sorry, Gary, very quickly, because I get this question asked to me a lot, obviously because of the community I'm involved with. When is the Aranda Glenn coming back? For sure. If there is anything.
Well, I've said a couple of times. Look, he feels like he's getting closer and closer. He's had 1 or 2 little setbacks, and when I say setbacks, just minor problems that the medical staff have been very cautious about, just purely because of the difficulty that he had earlier on in the season in that opening game against New York. He's a very valuable player to us. It will be fabulous when he's back in the group to be selected. And as quickly as we can do that, I certainly want to, and I know he does as well. But we have had 1 or 2 little setbacks that have just pushed his return date back a little bit. He is out on the field, he is doing some work, but again, I can't give you a definitive date on that, just that we're all looking forward to it, and it shouldn't be too long.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Gary, I'm curious. We've seen kind of Aníbal and Sean form the primary partnership in midfield over the past several games, but we've also seen Dax and Jan come off the bench and kind of change things up a little bit. I'm curious, what's your assessment of midfield and maybe like the different options that you have with those guys, and with Jan specifically? How do you feel like he's adapting to the new team, and how's his fitness ramping up?
Well, I think he gets better and better week on week, and it's great to see him come into the games and add to those minutes. What I do have to keep considering is that he didn't have a structured pre-season. We were into our season, and we're doing our very utmost, whether it's through minutes at the weekend, in Jan's case, and work during the week to get him to a point where he's certainly close to a start. And as far as those midfield players go, I mean, you've seen them on enough occasions to be able to say that each individual, I do think, has got a slightly different set of qualities and tools and skills. Whilst they're all vastly experienced, you know, Aníbal's ability in possession, the balance that he gives us with that left foot is slightly different to what we're going to see out of someone like Dax or Sean. And in Sean's case, you know, that tenacity and that willingness in a defensive role and mindset gives us something, you know, that's determined and aggressive, that maybe someone like Jan just moves in a slightly different direction. The balance that he has with both his feet and range of passing and some of his line breaking abilities give us again a slightly different opportunity and look to the team. So it's really, for me, against each opponent, to be trying to put out what I do believe are the best pairing or otherwise in a midfield to give us the very best look and opportunities to be successful. It's a nice position for me to be in, but obviously week on week there are choices to be made.
And then one last one for me. I went back and looked at the numbers, and Hani, despite not starting the first 2 games, he's only 1 goal contribution behind his pace through 8 games last year. What have you made of his start, and overall, how do you feel like the team has done supporting him? And I guess it's kind of related to some of the attacking questions, but just what have you made of how he's played so far?
Well, first of all, Ben, I'm delighted you've given me that stat, because I was getting worried and nobody else has, but that stat has made me feel an awful lot better. That's the one comment today that's going to let me walk away with a smile on my face. I think what you're seeing in Hani is what we've seen in the past. Whether it's part and parcel of his makeup, we've seen it before, that he has started slowly in the seasons that we've had him. But I don't think that's through any lack of trying. And in many cases, I think it's maybe an over-exuberance to try and make things happen that sometimes looks like he's either overplaying or overstressing himself in some cases to make something happen. Again, I think the dimensions in the group with Jacob and Fafa have given us something different that we're not quite getting the very best out of at the moment. So we continue to work hard at that. And then with the 2 front guys that have predominantly taken the minutes, wealth of experience there. These guys have been through periods in their season like this before, where they haven't scored and they're looking to get off the mark, and through all forwards. As soon as they do, gives them a boost. The pictures form a lot quicker. The confidence starts to come back into their game, and you start to see different people, different personalities. So I'm as eager as they are for them to hit the back of the net, Till and CJ. I think as soon as they do and we start to see those wide players click, I think that will bring Hani into gear a little bit more. But it's always lovely to see him hit the back of the net as he did last week. And I've no doubt those assists and goals will start to flow as those connections and opportunities around the rest of the group start to flourish a little bit more as well. So I think we're looking for all of that frontline group to just kick themselves into gear, and let's hope it's this weekend, eh?
Valer, take us home.
Yeah, Gary, the first 2 seasons, Nissan Stadium was very hard to play in for opposition, and Nashville had one of the best records in the league, if not the best record. Geodis Park, since it opened, hasn't had that. So 2 questions for you. What changed, and is there something you're doing to change that from squad and yourself?
Well, I would say very simply, without getting, too in depth with stats and, maybe details around it. The two main things are this. The stadium's phenomenal, and every team that comes here looks forward to playing here. The pitch is immaculate, constantly getting compliments about the quality of the surface, and of course the atmosphere and the environment. Teams give us their best shot. And the second point is that we're not an unknown anymore. In those early days, I think there were teams that certainly might have taken us for granted. New team to the league, expansion side. Before you know it, subconsciously, you go in and playing in a game that you've not prepared quite as well as you should have done for. And we did do well there. So you've now got a group and a team and an organisation in general that have been very decent, very competitive, have finished in strong positions in each of their 3 starting years. We're getting the best of people now. So we've got to try and overcome that. We've added more attacking quality and options. We've got to get the best out of that. We're still showing great signs through the core of the group defensively. Once those two start to click and the balance just comes into line, I think we're going to see a side that we saw in those first couple of years that are just as potent at home.
Preparations been this week?
Yes, it's hard week. The weather changed a little bit also. It's more hot. It's hard training. It's difficult, but we still be ready for big challenge we have that Saturday. We know we play, I think, with the best thing in the league in that moment. The recent champion for the MLS Cup last year, sorry. And yes, we try to doing the most better we have during training to try to bring that quality to the field Saturday.
Thank you, Aníbal. We're going to open the floor for questions. We'll kick it off with Tim Sullivan. Tim?
Yeah, Aníbal, last time you guys played this team, I think Joe had like 14 saves or something like that. They really kind of took the game to you guys, but you managed to hold on for a win. What is different about this year's version of LAFC, and how do you guys think you can have a better foothold in the game and hopefully get the same result?
Yeah, when you play against teams like to move the ball, like to take care with the ball, it's difficult to find the way to press sometimes. And of course, sometimes you leave like big space for them to try to do something impression, But I think this year we can find a way to try to be more positive forward and to try to press a little bit or to try to create like more space for us. And we know they have the top 3 in front, like Bowanga, Bella, and Opoku, or whatever guy play. They have really good pace and they have really good quality. And we need to try to close that space and try to be aware, because if we leave this space behind us, it's long night for us this Saturday.
And then last one from me. You guys played on a very tiny field last weekend in New York. Playing on a normal size pitch this weekend, how do you kind of adjust what you guys do to make sure that you are getting the most out of just the dimensions and obviously playing at home too? Yes,
we come back home. It's tough week last week. We play again in New York City, small field. It's difficult to find the space to play. We need to. In that moment, we need to change our game, to try to play in different way. But we come back to the Godoy Park, and we know, we like to play in that field. We like to use the big space, to try to take care of our quality we have. And yes, try to be ready in every single moment, every single second in that game. Because if we give space for that team, they are so dangerous in counter-attack also.
Claudio, go ahead.
Aníbal, even with all the good stuff that this team from Los Angeles brings to the table, they have lost 2 out of 3 games when they're visiting. And so everybody knows that George's Park is not easy for anybody. What does it tell you about that fact that they're lost 2 out of 3 when they come to visit a team? Tells you about your chances for this weekend.
Yes, this is why we try to put this stadium like the more hard as possible, because every team know like when they come to play against us in this stadium, we need to be the more difficult team. If we want to go to playoff, I always say, if we want to make the playoff, we need to win every single game home. It doesn't matter if we is LAFC, if we Toronto, if we I don't know, LA Galaxy. We need to try to be focused every single game. We try to be aggressive the first 20-25 minutes and try to always stay in the game. We know LAFC, they like to play in every single stadium. They feel comfortable. They play in home, they play away, they feel comfortable. We need to try to close that construction they have in the middle and also in attacking to try to be positive.
Claudio,
Aníbal, yeah, I got another one for him. The fact that there's 3 games, Jordy's coming up, does that bring you guys harder pressure? I mean, most times when you have to play locally, you know that the pressure is there to perhaps win the most points. How do you feel about it?
Yes, always we have depression when we play every single game, and more when we play home, because we know, like what I say, I know if I want to go to playoff, I need to win home. This is more depression, like more like when you see like the people, the fans, they feel like they deserve more, you know, and we need to start to put like more pressure to us, you know. This is why in that all 3 games we have in the row in home start Saturday. We need to start in the right way, because Atlanta also next week is tough game, and we need to start, if we want to jump in the table, we need to start to do something good in the game.
Valer, go ahead.
Aníbal, when it comes to a big team like LAFC, like you said, they're one of the best teams in the league. Where do you draw the line between preparing for the team that's visiting and your own game? When you're doing these preparations throughout the week, are you doing anything extra for them, or are you just focusing on the best thing you can do as a team?
Yes, of course, we focus in all the quality they have to try to contain that part of the game they have, but also we focus in our game. We need to, the more important for us is to be focused in the way we play, because if we be focused too much in the way they play, we lose our quality, you know, and this is why we have so many good players, we have so many quality players in that team to try to be focused. And of course, LAFC have some space to try to, we want to like be positive, you know. And we're looking in the video, they have so many times like we are doing something good in if we try to go high to press, or if we win the ball more higher. Of course, we have more time to be more closer to the goal.
Any other questions, Valer? Wonderful. We'll go to Ben right for final questions of the day.
Yeah, Aníbal, I'm curious. You talked about LAFC a lot. What specifically have you made of their midfield? Obviously, they have guys like Acosta, Tillman, Ilie, even Cifuentes. What have you made of them, and how do you expect that kind of midfield matchup to play out on Saturday?
Yes, I think they don't change too much the way like they play. They like to play football, like what I say. They love to play short. I think this is the way they feel more comfort. And we need to start. We need to be ready to try to close that space and to try to working hard, because we know, like what I say, we have really good team forward. We have really good quality player. Like if we win the ball in good area, we are so dangerous in that moment. And this is why we need to be ready to try to working hard, the more important, to try to everybody stay in the same page, compact, and try to close the space like they have it.
And then last one for me. You guys have obviously been really strong defensively this year, but maybe not scored as much as you'd like. From your perspective in midfield, how do you balance wanting to be defensively solid while also trying to maybe give a little bit more in the final third?
Yes, and everybody know in the league like we are, like what you say, like a strong team in defense, like low block and try to shift side to side. We control well in that part, but sometimes we need to improve a little bit more like forward to try to be like more dangerous in dangerous area, try to be like more positive, like when we go forward, like try to create like chance and try to like stay in good area, in good pocket, like find the right time to try to do 1-against-1, or the right time to try to play short, or the right time to try to run in behind, you know. I think every day we start to improve in that area, because we know like this is the area we need to improve more in that moment, because we miss so many time close to the goal, you know, and yes, like what you say, we need to improve more in that area.